How does it feel to brutally stab and murder your own mom?
Such a simple concept before my brother murdered my mother.
None of this was supposed to happen. I love my kids.
Prosecutors strongly urged the judge to impose a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
For 42 years, were the best years of my life I had with Melissa.
For 42 years, Ted and Melissa Ambergy built a wonderful life together, raising 4 children and welcoming 7 grandchildren. They looked forward to many more years as a family. However, that future was shattered when Melissa was tragically murdered by her eldest son, Joshua.
Every time I close my eyes, I hear the doctor say, "Mom didn't make it." And then I immediately picture you stabbing her.
How does it feel to brutally stab and murder your own mom? Our relationship ended the second you picked up that knife. Today is the last day you will ever hear my voice, see my face, and look me in the eye.
In an emotional moment, family members delivered powerful words, vowing to cut ties with Joshua following the tragic loss of Melissa.
How do you think I view the word family? Family is supposed to be there for one another, right? Family is supposed to be trusted, right? Such a simple concept before my brother murdered my mother.
Each family member asked the judge to sentence Joshua to life without the possibility of parole, seeking justice for Melissa's tragic death.
Please, I'm begging you, do not let Josh ever have the opportunity to get out of prison. You have 15 lives in your hands.
There is not a second that goes by that I don't imagine Josh showing up at my door with a knife to kill the rest of my family. This fear is real and it consumes me. For the sake of my children, Josh needs to remain in prison until he dies, period.
Joshua Ambergy had previously pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and felonious assault, the latter involving an attack on a police officer. The judge sentenced him to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 41.5 years, meaning he will be 81 before he's eligible for release. It was a tense and emotional day in Onondaga County Court as Jesse Outley, one of the 2 men involved in the tragic death of a girl in 2021, came face to face with the girl's grieving parents. Outley, who played a role in the killing of Syracuse's youngest gun violence victim, was in court for a crucial hearing, and emotions ran high as the family confronted the man responsible for their unimaginable loss.
At this time, I would ask that the parents of Dior Harris be heard. Desiree Seymour and Dior Harris.
The parents of Dior Harris spoke directly to Jesse Outley, the man who fired the gun that took their girl's life 3 years ago. Their words were filled with pain and heartbreak as they confronted the person responsible for their unimaginable loss.
Yeah, bro, Dior, you took her from me, bro.
They did not hold back any emotion during Jesse Outley's sentencing.
You, if you had kids, you understand, man. You understand, yo. 4 days before, 15 days before our first birthday, man, clown took our way because they want to shoot up the wrong car, man.
The judge eventually stepped in to take control of the situation, calming the intense emotions in the courtroom during Jesse Outley's sentencing.
I just want to look at you in the eyes, bro.
The judge briefly removed Outley from the courtroom, but when he returned, he did so with a smile on his face. The judge later addressed Outley directly.
Her mother and father, you know, you can't imagine, I can't imagine, I wouldn't want to imagine what they're going through as a result of this.
A punishment that, despite its severity, can never truly make up for the heartbreaking loss of their girl, Dior Harris.
All we want is justice for our daughter, that's it.
The judge sentenced Outley to 40 years to life in prison. Omari Varela's death shocked the entire state, and his mother, Cynthia Varela Casas, learned she would be imprisoned for a long time. In a heartbreaking moment, Cynthia's own daughter asked the judge to keep her mother in prison. Through tears, Cynthia addressed the court, but the judge sentenced her to 40 years behind bars after her family pleaded to keep her away from Omari's 2 younger siblings for their safety.
That you did murder Omari Varela and knew that your acts created a strong probability of death?
Cynthia Varela Casas sobbed throughout her sentencing.
How do you plead?
Guilty.
She pled guilty to 6 counts in court, admitting to the horrific act of kicking her son, Omar Varela, to death in December 2013. On the day of her arrest, she expressed through tears about her regret and sorrow, though it was too late to save her son.
I was disciplining him and I kicked him the wrong way. It was an accident.
Now, 2.5 years later, Cynthia Varela Casas sat crying in court as her own sister addressed the statement.
To hear the words that my sister said, I kicked him the wrong way. How could my sister do this?
She adopted Omari and his 2 younger siblings, telling the court about the ongoing suffering they experienced.
Auntie, can't Mari be fixed? Can't God or the doctors fix him?
She mentioned that Omari's sister frequently talks about the abuse they all endured.
She talks about her brother Amari, that he was screaming for help. Auntie, I just want to hug him so bad it hurts.
Omari's aunt urged the judge to hold her sister accountable. Omari's younger sister shared her own thoughts in a letter that was read to the judge.
Mom is not a good person to me because he hurt my brother. I am scared that Mom might see me. I hope Mom stays in jail for that I can be safe.
In the end, Varela Casas spoke directly to the court.
None of this was supposed to happen. I love my kids. And I thank my sister for taking care of them and raising them. There's nothing more that I could ask for.
She will spend the next 40 years in prison, while Omari's stepdad, Steve Casas, was recently sentenced to 30 years. Cynthia Varela Casas' attorney mentioned that she chose not to subject her young daughter to another trial. The judge also ordered that Varela Casas is not to have any contact with her children or their guardians while she is in prison or on probation. A brutal attack led to a woman being sentenced to 25 years in prison for her husband 17 times with a kitchen knife. Anna Marie Jaitani accepted a plea agreement and faced her husband's family after her sentencing. Elford Jaitani, the father of the victim, Tony Jaitani, said he had waited 2 years to address 38-year-old Anna Marie Jaitani, who was sentenced for killing his son.
I do not forgive you for murdering Tony, my son. I curse you for what you have done.
According to the statement, Anna Marie Jaitani stabbed her husband to death. The police report revealed that he was stabbed 17 times, with 3 of those stabs occurring as emergency responders arrived at the couple's northwest Bexar County home.
I wish terrible things to happen to you in this life. When you die, you should burn in hell forever.
The victim's mother also addressed Anna Marie Jaitani through a victim impact statement, sharing the family's pain and loss in the wake of her son's death.
I will all the time pray God that you wrote in your prison cell.
Earlier, the judge reviewed and accepted the plea bargain, finalizing the agreement that would send Anna Marie Jaitani to prison for 25 years.
The court will go ahead and assess your punishment at 25 years in the Texas Department of Correction. Will order a fine of $10,000.
Jaitani must serve at least half of her 25-year sentence, day by day, before she can even be considered for parole. Emotions were intense in a King County courtroom as a woman and her friend were sentenced to prison for the murder of her ex-boyfriend. Tearful testimonies were heard from all sides, including one from the victim's ex-girlfriend. However, neither she nor her accomplice showed any remorse, which did not help their plea for leniency during sentencing.
It is still just beyond me to understand how anyone could hurt him.
The past 2.5 years seemed to weigh heavily on the self-described American mom of Erickson Velasquez, the former foster child from Honduras, whom she had come to love.
He was my son. He was my friend. And he shared so much of himself in his short life.
She stood just a few feet away from 23-year-old Anna, the ex-girlfriend who had set up Velasquez for a robbery that tragically went wrong, leading to his death.
His last act on this planet was doing a kindness for her.
Velasquez was just 25 years old in September 2017 when Anna lured him out of his house under the pretense of needing help. Instead, 21-year-old Abel killed him. Anna then callously walked over to Velasquez's dying body and drove away without attempting to help or call 911.
I hope one day I'm able to clear this huge ordeal
An accusation.
A tearful Anna criticized the judicial system during her statement, but made no apology for Velasquez's death, showing no remorse for her role in the tragedy.
I don't deserve to be perceived as a person that I'm not, and I'm still going to continue to fight this case.
Judge Christian Richardson acknowledged that there was persuasive evidence against both Anna and Abel. However, she also noted that she could not overlook the fact that they were still quite young.
I am going to impose the low end of the standard range in each case.
With that decision, the judge sentenced both Anna and Abel to 25 years in prison. By the time they are released, they will be middle-aged. Both of them are currently appealing their sentences. A man charged with the death of his child in a hot car appeared in court, facing upgraded charges from second-degree to first-degree murder. Christopher Schultes entered a plea of not guilty. This was the public's first close look at Schultes, who is accused of leaving his daughter in a car until she died. Initially, Schultes was charged with second-degree murder, which typically involves reckless behavior leading to death. However, a grand jury indicted him on first-degree murder charges, which require evidence of premeditation and deliberate action. During the hearing in Pima County Superior Court, hearing officer Michelle Metzger formally notified Schultes of the upgraded charges. His attorney entered a not guilty plea, standard at this early stage of the case. Investigators believe Schultes may have left his daughter in the car for up to 3 hours. Police report that Schultes claimed he often left the child in the vehicle with the engine and air conditioning running, but on this occasion, the car shut off automatically after 30 minutes. The interim complaint states that Schultes knew the car would shut off after that time. His other children told police that he frequently left all of them in the car. On this particular day, Schultes was allegedly distracted by a video game and putting food away. His wife, a medical doctor, came home around 4 p.m. and asked where the baby was. Schultes searched the house before remembering the girl was still in the car. By then, the car's air conditioning had stopped and temperatures had reached 109 degrees. Schultes initially told police he returned home with his daughter around 2:30 p.m., but neighborhood surveillance showed they had returned at 12:52 p.m., 2 hours earlier. The child's mother tried to revive her, but it was too late. Police revealed that as the ambulance rushed the child to the hospital, the mother texted Schultes saying, "I told you to stop leaving them in the car." "How many times have I told you?" Schultes replied, "Babe, I'm sorry." The mother then texted, "We've lost her. She was perfect." Schultes responded, "Babe, our family. How could I do this? I killed our baby. This can't be real." If convicted of first-degree murder, Schultes could face life in prison. Although Arizona state law allows for the death penalty, the Pima County attorney typically does not seek it in such cases. Two sisters have been charged, accused of intentionally starting the fire that tragically killed a boy.
I want these people to burn. There's no other way to describe it.
The family of Malachi Stovall, along with prosecutors, are now seeking justice for his tragic death. Sisters Teakila and Taquita Hendricks were arrested and appeared in court. Emotions were raw as Malachi's mother shouted her son's name during the arraignment, ensuring the Hendricks sisters heard it. It was an emotional day in court as the two sisters, charged in the fire that killed young Malachi in Rochester, faced the judge. Teakila Hendricks, 21, and Taquita Hendricks, 31, pled not guilty to charges of second-degree murder and first-degree arson. Prosecutors alleged the sisters poured gasoline on the front porch of a duplex on Portland Avenue and set it on fire, resulting in Malachi Stovall's death. For the first time, the boy's grieving mother confronted her son's accused killers in court.
I'm Malachi's advocate right now. I wanted them to hear from his mother that we're not going to let this go.
Malachi was trapped on the second floor of his home when firefighters rescued him. In addition to Malachi's loss, 2 firefighters were injured during the rescue.
I just want his memory to live on. He was my best friend. It's definitely, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. And I want these people to burn. There's no other way to describe it.
Assistant District Attorney Kevin Sunderland described the case as an absolute tragedy.
Children are always innocent. They are the most innocent victims we can have in our community. They're the ones we all seek to protect. And unfortunately, There's nothing that child could have ever done to deserve what happened to him.
Malachi's family attended the Hendricks sisters' arraignment wearing t-shirts with his picture. They expressed that the news of the arrests brought them some relief, though the pain of their loss remains.
At least I know who it was. They can't hurt anyone else. I hate that it even took this. This doesn't make sense to me. We had so many plans, and I just wish it would bring them back.
After Tia Kayla Hendricks' arraignment, the judge noted that she had previously failed to appear for a court hearing on a separate matter. As a result, she is required to appear in city court for that case. Michael Hernandez, a convicted teenage killer, appeared in court ahead of the August sentencing date. Hernandez had previously been sentenced to life in prison for the 2004 murder of his classmate, but a Supreme Court ruling changed that, declaring that juveniles cannot be sentenced to life without parole. The new sentencing hearings are scheduled for August and are expected to be highly emotional. On one side, the family of the young boy who was brutally over 40 times in a middle school bathroom, and on the other, the parents of Hernandez, who hope their son will not spend the rest of his life in prison. As Hernandez left the courtroom, he blew a kiss to his parents. He is set to return before Judge John Schlesinger in August for the new sentencing hearing.
I don't want to continue this. I don't want to leave it hanging. I think it's in fairness to the state and in fairness to Mr. Hernandez. He needs to get this determined.
Now 25 years old, Michael Hernandez was just a teen when he stabbed Jaime Gove to death in a Southwood Middle School bathroom. His original life sentence without parole was overturned in 2013 after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that mandatory life sentences cannot be imposed on juveniles. It is now up to the judge to decide Hernandez's fate again.
In the event that the Florida Supreme Court says life without parole is not an option, the court can give alternative sentences, and we can have finality for this family.
Hernandez has been held in the Miami-Dade County Jail since Thanksgiving. His public defender requested that he be returned to the state prison to await his resentencing.
Mr. Hernandez, while he's been at Columbia Correctional Institute, Your Honor, he is a law clerk there at Columbia Correctional Institute. But in addition to that, he is pursuing his online degree with Ohio University.
The state argued that Hernandez needed to remain in South Florida so their doctors could evaluate him. The judge agreed, deciding to keep Hernandez in town until his sentencing, which is scheduled for 3 days in late August. Hernandez's parents were present to support him, leaving the court with a clearer timeline for when their son's future would be decided, but still uncertain of the outcome.
Don't know. Right now everything's still up in the air.
The Goff family stated they have no comment at this time. However, in past conversations, both Jaime Goff's mother and father expressed that they have forgiven Michael Hernandez for the tragic loss of their son. In a strange turn of events, President Trump's name was unexpectedly mentioned during a sentencing hearing inside a county courtroom. A man was set to be sentenced for the 2012 murder of his estranged wife, but at the last minute, the proceedings were halted. It was undoubtedly one of the most bizarre hearings. Instead of receiving his prison sentence, the hearing took a strange twist when the man made weird comments about President Trump and a supposed national security issue, bringing everything to an abrupt stop.
But I do complete for mercy. For I have not committed a crime.
First, the convicted killer told the judge that he did not kill his wife. Then, he made some unexpected and bizarre comments, further derailing the sentencing hearing.
Commander-in-Chief, the witch hunt ends here.
No one in the courtroom fully understood what the convicted killer meant, prompting the judge to ask for clarification. Torres responded that it was related to national security and Donald Trump.
Life is on the line. My family's life is on the line.
So you want to tell this to somebody?
And to the Commander-in-Chief, to the First Lady.
After his remarks, Torres was evaluated, and the hearing was closed to the media. Following this, the proceedings were adjourned for the day. However, the drama did not overshadow the powerful words of his teenage daughter, who also spoke during the hearing.
I can't even celebrate my own birthday without crying, knowing that she isn't there to see me turn 18.
She spoke with anger toward her father, expressing her feelings about the situation and its impact on her life.
If you loved us, would have known when to stop. If you loved us, you would have turned yourself in. If you loved us, you would have left her alone.
A trial prosecutor depicted him as a jealous, controlling man who used spy software on his estranged wife's phone to track her. He allegedly killed her after she returned home from a date with another man in 2012. Prosecutors claim he disposed of her body in the Everglades, which has never been found. The victim's family requested the maximum sentence, believing it was the only fair punishment for the murder of a loving woman devoted to her 3 young children.
She was the leader of this family, and she was killed by the person that she loved the most.
The sentencing hearing will resume. He could face a sentence ranging from 20 years to life in prison. The family of 27-year-old Houston mother Coral Nino, who was tragically strangled to death, spoke out. Investigators report that her ex-boyfriend, the father of her child, is in jail in connection with her death. They say the suspect, 27-year-old Ivan, walked into a police station and confessed to strangling Coral. He admitted to driving her body to an Academy Sports parking lot on 290 and leaving her in the car. According to investigators, this incident occurred after the two went to a bar and were outside Coral's home talking.
He showed a lot of signs of jealousy. I feel like my sister started making her life without him, and I think he just couldn't stand to see that.
Investigators revealed that the suspect had a bus ticket to Mexico on him when he turned himself in. Coral Nino's family is grieving and struggling to find ways to explain to her son that his mother is gone. The suspect has been charged with murder and is currently held at Harris County Jail on a $150,000 bond. In the meantime, the family has set up a donation page to help with funeral arrangements. Tayshawn Adams Wright is one of 2 individuals believed to have shot Jonte Hudson while he was on the ground after being tackled inside the Mall of America just 2 days before Christmas in 2022.
I want to apologize for bringing pain and suffering to the victim family, also to the lady who got shot, and to the community of Bloomington and Mall of America. I also want to apologize for my mom and my family. I was 18 and I fully developed to really understand the impact of my actions. I know and understand what I did is wrong. I accept full responsibility for my actions. I always say I'm sorry, but saying I'm sorry is not only what I've done. I was influenced by false friend movies, music, and video games, but I cannot take back my action. I am truly apologize for my actions.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. So let me start by expressing my sympathies, my condolences for, as Mr. Hudson's aunt described it, the crushing grief you have to live with every day. I can't wrap my head around this. No one who hasn't gone through what you're going through can. All I can do is acknowledge it, the pain, and it doesn't go away. I understand that, and I'm truly sorry. I want to at least acknowledge a comment that family members made, because I agree with it. It is remarkable that only 2 of the people who are involved in this matter will end up in front of adult courts. I think that's unfortunate because it fails to recognize, and this I need you to hear, Mr. Adams Wright, that the criminal justice system must take into account personal characteristics of the person who's in front of them. And I acknowledge you're young. But the criminal justice system also exists to punish people when they do bad things. And we forget that as a system at our peril. In crafting a sentence today, I've taken into account the remarkable circumstances of in the middle of a holiday rush in a major retailer or a retail establishment, Mr. Wright, you and several others decided to hunt someone down and execute him. And we've all seen that tape. And there can be no other definition of what happened that day. And your recitation of acting in self-defense that day, you weren't. You participated with a group of people who killed someone. And it is as simple as that. And the sooner you wrap your head around that and understand that and acknowledge that, the better off we'll be. I do, I did make the findings, and I'll repeat them, that it was a group of 3 or more. You put a whole lot of other people in harm's way in addition to the guy that you killed, one of whom was struck by a bullet. And there were children and loads of folks that deserved to be nowhere close to any of this that you were involved in. So, taking that all into account, and taking into account your age, I've arrived at the following. Sir, you've entered a plea of guilty to murder in the 2nd degree. You've also entered a plea of guilty to assault in the 2nd degree. You've told me enough for me to believe you are guilty of those offenses, so I accept your plea of guilty. I adjudicate you guilty on both of those crimes. And starting with count 1, murder in the 2nd degree, I sentence you to custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 367 months. Against that sentence, you are entitled to credit for 524 days. Restitution is reserved for 45 days. $50 fine, $75 surcharge, and $3 law library fee to be taken from prison earnings. You may never possess, use, transport firearms or ammunition or explosives for the remainder of your life. And if you have not already done so, you must provide a DNA sample. As to the 2nd degree assault, that person has suffered a real harm in this. I do not take a moment away from anything that the family of the deceased has told me, but I acknowledge at the same time that poor person had nothing to do with any of this and still took a bullet. So as to that sentence, I sentence you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 6 months as provided by law. What I am doing today, however, and I'll be frank, it is acknowledging your age, it is making that sentence concurrent. So your sentence is 30 years and 7 months. No. So that is to be executed forthwith. Is there anything else for the record?
Restitution, please stay.
I did.
Thank you.
Thank you. That will conclude this hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge Paul Scoggin sentenced 19-year-old Tayshawn Adams Wright to 30 years in prison for the fatal shooting of Hudson. On March 21, 2013, in Brunswick, Antonio Santiago was tragically killed by DeMarcus Elkins. In court, the atmosphere was charged with the mother's anguished cries and the unsettling silence of the perpetrator. When the mother recounted the moment she witnessed her child's death, her words left a lasting impact on everyone present.
Yes.
What did you do as you saw them approach?
I moved to the right
Why did you do that?
to make sure they had enough room to pass me.
Okay, were you in the street with the stroller?
Yes.
Is there a sidewalk?
No.
Why were you in the street?
That road was smoother for the baby stroller.
All right, tell us what happened as you approached these 2 boys, as you called them.
The big one approached me and demanded me to give him money.
Do then?
I told him I didn't have any.
Did he say? Say.
He repeated it. He said, "Give me your money."
How many boys were there?
2.
Describe how tall and how short they were.
One was tall and the other one was short.
You have any idea what the ages of the boys were?
One looked 15 and the other one looked 5.
Now, which was the one who was doing the talking?
The big one.
He asked you, what did you say, for money?
He demanded me to give him my money.
Have a purse with you?
Yes.
What kind of a purse was it?
A shoulder bag, black canvas.
Okay. And the second time after he asked you for money, what did you do?
I told him that I have a baby and I have expenses and I didn't have it.
What happened next?
He asked me if I wanted him to shoot my baby. And I said, please don't shoot my baby. He shot a warning shot to the ground.
When you say he shot, was he carrying a gun?
He pulled out a gun.
A gun.
Yes.
He shot it into the ground, you said?
Yes.
What happened next?
Then he pointed it at me and he tried to shoot me in the head and I ducked.
Get hit. The head.
I asked him, why are you doing this? Please don't do this. And it felt like he shot me in the ear.
What happened next?
And then he shot me in the leg.
You in the leg. Which leg?
My left leg.
What happened after that?
He walked over and shot my baby.
See him shoot your baby?
Yes. I tried to stop him. I put my arms over my baby, but he still shot him.
Wes, I know this is, but I'm asking you to describe for us a young man who shot you and shot your baby. What was he wearing?
A red sweatshirt.
Kind of pants?
Dark.
What, if any, jewelry was he wearing?
A silver chain.
Describe it in more detail for us.
It was thick. Silver.
What color was he?
It was silver.
What color was he?
He was black.
Were there any distinguishing features on his face that stood out to you?
Yes.
Tell the court what those were.
He had full lips and thick eyebrows.
Tell us what the other one who was with him had on.
A black shirt.
Did a good look at his face?
No.
Now, after your baby was shot, what, if anything, did these two men do?
He still tried to grab my purse and he hit me with the gun in the side of my head.
Even after the baby had been shot?
Yes.
What did they do after that with these two men?
I screamed twice. Someone please call the police. Someone please help. He shot my baby.
Where did the men go?
They ran.
Tell us in what direction they ran?
Down London Street. I could barely walk, but I held on to the fence. And I tried to wheel my baby into a yard to safety, to perform CPR.
Try to do so?
Yes. Until the police got there.
someone there to try to render aid to you?
A policeman approached me and identified, he identified himself as a policeman, and he took over CPR for me.
Where did the baby go?
They rushed him to the ambulance.
What happened to you?
They helped me out of the yard because I couldn't walk.
And where was the baby transported?
To the hospital.
Tell the court where you were transported.
When we finally found out that I was injured, they transported me to the same hospital.
And tell the court how long you were in the hospital.
It seemed like forever. It was a couple hours.
Was there a bullet in your leg?
Yes.
Was it extracted at that time?
No, they said it was too dangerous to remove the bullet. They did an ultrasound of my leg to make sure the blood vessels, everything was flowing.
Now, where was your baby?
In another room. I kept asking if he was all right, and no one told me anything, not right away.
To eventually find out what had happened to your baby?
Yes.
When did you find that out?
It seemed like forever.
Found out?
Yes.
The baby did not survive?
No.
Now, did police officers come and talk to you while you were in the hospital?
Yes.
And did you go to the scene of the shooting with the police officers later that day?
Yes.
And what was the purpose for which you went with the police officers back to the scene of the shooting?
A reenactment.
Reenactment. Tell us what that means. What did they ask you to do?
They asked me to show them what happened.
You do so?
Yes. I was assisted by a detective because I had trouble walking.
In the Superior Court of Cobb County, State of Georgia versus DeMarquise Kareem Elkins and Karama Elkins, case number 13-9-3228. Defendant DeMarquise Kareem Elkins. As to defendant Marquise Kareem Elkins, we, the jury, find as follows. Count 1, on the charge of malice murder, we find the defendant guilty of malice murder. Count 2, felony murder. On the charge of felony murder, we find the defendant guilty of felony murder. Count 3, felony murder. On the charge of felony murder, we find the defendant guilty of felony murder. Count 4, aggravated assault. On the charge of aggravated assault, we find the defendant guilty of aggravated assault. Count 5, criminal attempt to commit armed robbery. On the charge of criminal attempt to commit armed robbery, we find the defendant guilty of criminal attempt to commit armed robbery. Count 6, aggravated assault. On the charge of aggravated assault, we find the defendant guilty of aggravated assault. Count 7, aggravated assault. On the charge of aggravated assault, we find the defendant guilty of aggravated assault. Count 8, to children in the first degree. On the charge of cruelty to children in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty of cruelty to children in the first degree. Count 9, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. On the charge of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, we find the defendant guilty of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Count 14, criminal attempt to commit armed robbery. On the charge of criminal attempt to commit armed robbery, we find the defendant guilty of criminal attempt to commit armed robbery. Count 15, aggravated assault. On the charge of aggravated assault, we find the defendant guilty of aggravated assault. Defendant Karima Elkins, as to defendant Karima Elkins, we the jury find as follows. Count 11, making a false statement. On the charge of making a false statement, we find the defendant not guilty of making a false statement. Count 12, tampering with evidence. On the charge of tampering with evidence, we find the defendant guilty of tampering with evidence. So say we all, this 30th day of August, 2013, John R.
Oster.
Foreperson.
Oster.
DeMarcus Elkins was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. On February 12, 2015, 4 innocent children in Las Vegas lost their mother, Tammy Myers, when Eric Nausch fatally shot her. Now, justice will be served as the accused faces the consequences of his actions. Hearing from the victim's children before sentencing is important for both the court and the defendant, as it helps everyone grasp the full impact of the crime.
Good morning, Your Honor. It's kind of been a hard past year going on. Did lose a wonderful mother. I do want to say she was a great mom, and a lot of stuff has been said about her, and I don't want to get into that. Just want to say my brother that everyone brings up about this, I know what his intentions were, and he had no bad intentions going out. And I know him, he was just trying to be a hero of the family. And when he got back to the house, it was just a whole different story. And my sister's the one that takes it the hardest, the most, out of all of us brothers and sisters. She's the one that takes it the most because that was her best friend. And honestly, she was all our best friends. She was the one to go to. And it's pretty sad we don't have her for this holiday that's coming up. And we kind of really didn't do anything on Thanksgiving because it was just all about her. And it's just been hard. And do you want to say it, Your Honor? Do you want, can you please go up for the full sentence? And that's pretty much all I have to say.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, Your Honor, is Crystal Myers.
I tried for hours to figure out what I wanted to say. And I come to the conclusion that I can't say anything to bring my mom back. You took her from me, and it was finalized with your last breath. On February 14, 2015. So because you didn't think of the time that I would lose with her, I'm not going to further waste my time on you. You took a gentle soul, a grandma, a daughter, a wife, and a mom. Your brief moment of stupidity took so many precious moments to come from me. Eventually the pain will go away, but the hurt you've caused this family is permanent. Every birthday, every anniversary, every holiday, I will be reminded that she's gone. 1 year and 10 months, I have been waking up wishing it was a dream. Wishing she was still here, wishing I didn't have to face the reality that she was really gone. Wishing I could hug and kiss her one last time. It's been a rough almost 2 years growing up without my mom. It's been rough facing media, facing the 2 guys that's taken my mother's life. Every time I walk in this courtroom, it starts all over again. It's been dragged on with the same 2 people, and they truly didn't know what it was really doing, nor did they care. Every time I walk in this courthouse, I picture her laying there in her lifeless body that I couldn't bring back. Your Honor, they took my best friend, my mother. They took the memories we were supposed to have with her. Your Honor, I ask you to please don't give him a chance to take another beautiful human being out of this world. Don't give him a chance to put another family through heartbreak and misery. Your Honor, please give him a maximum sentence.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Please state and spell your name for the court's record.
Robert Edward Myers, R-O-B-E-R-T. Edward, sorry, E-D-W-A-R-D, Myers, M-E-Y-E-R-S.
Go ahead, sir.
I was married to my wife for 24 years. We knew each other for 2 weeks and then we're married. We have 4 beautiful children, 2 beautiful grandchildren that she'll never get to see. Heard a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we as a people don't know what happened that night. But we do know one thing, that a good woman, a mother for a wife, life was taken. We do know another thing, that the defendants had a way out. First time they weren't fired upon, they had a way out, Your Honor. They could have left. They decided to pursue and that was their goal. I've heard a lot of testimony today. Now, there's no remorse there. He's an animal, Your Honor. Now, I know his attorneys are doing their job. They're doing a damn good job for him because he's not going to do it. There's absolutely no remorse from that animal. And for anybody to say there isn't. There's 3 families here suffering. There's the Naushes, there's Andrew's family, there's my family. And we have to live, us as the families, on what these 2 animals decided to do that day. And they had a choice to leave, Your Honor, after they didn't kill anybody. They had a choice not to pursue because they weren't being pursued or shot at. Today I hear from Andrews, I appreciate your candor today, but until today I've seen no remorse from you. I've not seen it. Am I gonna forgive you? Never, ever. Neither one of you will get my forgiveness. And especially Eric now. I hope for me and mine, you burn in hell and you get what you have coming to you today. Because you, Mr. are an animal. And you can have your little smirks like you've had in court. And I've had to sit here and put up with.
Maximum term of 60 months, minimum term of 24 months. Count 2 to run consecutive to count 1. For an aggregate sentence of 180 months maximum term, 60 months minimum term. You're also ordered to pay a $25 administrative assessment fee, $3 DNA collection fee, $150 DNA fees with the DNA testing, $250 to the Indigent Defense Fund, and you are ordered also to pay restitution amount of $2,480.18 jointly and severally. And if I didn't already mention it, 644 days credit for time served. Mr. Nausch, on the second-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon, what's particularly troubling to me is the first shooting, because numerous shots rang out and are on the roadway, and there's other vehicles perhaps, there's homeowners, there's other homes, other family members. And then you told your friend, maybe it was his idea, let's go follow them, let's go find them, let's go get them. You're in a cul-de-sac, have homes and other family members that you put in danger. Court sentenced you to a term of life in prison, possibly parole beginning after 10 years. On the weapons enhancement, a consecutive term of, maximum term of 120 months, minimum term of 48 months. You already pay a $25 administrative assessment fee, $3 DNA collection fee, $150 DNA fee with the DNA testing, $250 to the Indigent Defense Fund, and you have 673 days credit for time served. Thank you, counsel. And the restitution of $2,480.18 jointly and severally with the co-defendant. Thank you, counsel.
He's there. He's really fucking young. I ain't giving him no senses. I've never been in trouble freaking hard. My entire life, I've never been in trouble. I've never been through the freaking system. Come on.
Due to the fact that I am a defendant who is confined in solitary housing, I am only given one chance opportunity to come out of my cell for 1 hour every 24 hours due to the magnitude and the publicity that my case has always received. I have only had one chance to make calls during business hours because the time I am given to come out of my cell can vary from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. and so on. That time is up to the institution and not me. I am young. Even though I have made some claims already, the fact that I've been bringing forward and addressing ineffective assistance to counsel, I may have overlooked some important matters that need to be put on the record before you sentence me. I can lose my grounds for an appeal on certain issues. I can be sentenced to a harsh sentence when there might be things that I'm yet to discover that could mitigate my sentence. Not looking to slow the courts, but I am alone in this matter, and I need an ample amount of time to work through everything so that I can properly be prepared for sentencing. This is my own doing, therefore, as you can see, my preparation is worth anybody else's and much needed. The problems that may arise from a continuance today is nowhere near the magnitude of the problems that may arise for me if you do not grant me more reasonable time to prepare. The law clearly states that the district courts should grant a defendant prior to sentencing him a continuance if the defendant can show a just reason for it. For someone of my age and knowledge of the law, 2 weeks was not enough. My attorneys can only claim to be prepared. As of yesterday, they just came to see me. This is why I have asked to speak for myself and need more time, so I can be ready. Not wanting to be quickly pushed through this and put in a worse position to help myself. Please understand my concerns for more time. My reasons are fair and justifiable and aren't at all frivolous claims. You just not too long ago made a ruling that was not in my favor. This is my last chance to put everything on record to my knowledge. I can see my counsel's reason to proceed today. It can only bring them closure if they truly have in some way been ineffective. This is my life. By a life being something that cannot be replaced, please don't substitute it for anything other than what it is, because this is all I have left to take with me as I go away a convicted man seeking justice. Once again, my offerings of sympathy goes out to Tammy Myers and everybody that is here on her behalf. I ask that you all do not mistake the fact that I am asking for my rights by portraying me as if I am overlooking her life, because that's not the case, and I can assure you that. For you all and for her is part of the reason I've made this a speech and not just a statement that could be shorthanded and downplayed as if I'm the only person that matters here today. Your Honor, I would also like to put on the record here today that Mr. Stanton, Deputy District Attorney for the state of Nevada, has been making personal comments and speaking unprofessional about me when his duty is to only bring forth the true facts of the case. I hope that Your Honor can also consider this and make fair decisions on my behalf and understand that I am not this person that Mr. Stanton is making me out to be, as the assailant who is involved throughout this case. Setting aside the case, I ask that the court have consideration for me as a person who still has rights, rather than just some menacing monster and criminal who has no rights, and to be allowed a fair and equal opportunity with the court of law. I ask for you not to send me up unprepared because it is a highly chance that I could be stuck being a guilty man for the remainder of my life. That being said, I ask that Your Honor grant me a minimum of 30 days continuous. With that, I submit.
Mr. Nash, you entered your plea March 4th of this year, approximately 9 months ago. What other items do you wish the court to consider after 9 months?
Well, there's, like I said, I put all my focus and time into withdrawing that guilty plea that I'm not ready to be sentenced today. I don't have certain things that need to be brought to the court's attention. I haven't had time to sit over and look over, things for myself and for, the family and for everything in this court today to be considered for my sentencing. I only come out an hour a day. I've asked the COs multiple times to let me out, at a reasonable hour during the day, or at least let me out for a 5-minute phone call to my counsel. They deny it every time and tell me that they have to go by the list. The list is a list.
You haven't answered my question. What other items do you wish this court to consider?
That's the thing. There's certain things that I need to do, and there's certain things that need to be found that I know are there. Like I said, I put all my focus and all my attention on withdrawing this guilty plea. Like any reasonable person, it was in the process for 9 months of going through a process to try and withdraw his guilty plea. I didn't sit and prepare for sentencing because I didn't think that my motion would be denied, especially for the reasons that were put on record. So I have not, and I haven't had a reasonable amount of time to prepare for sentencing. It's been 13 days. But 2 of those aren't even business days.
All right, thank you, sir.
Eric Nausch was arrested and charged with the shooting of Tammy Myers. He later accepted a plea deal and was sentenced to serve 8 to 25 years in prison. Big thanks to our viewers for joining the courtroom journey with us. Your interest in the stories of justice is what keeps our channel alive.